Purple Enel, Chad, the boogeyman of the OP15 format. Still pretty good in the OP16 format, but still holding on in the OP16.5 format, despite Teach still being a meta-relevant deck. Mihawk jumping into the limelight as potentially the best deck in format. It's going to be going up against Koby. Koby, a fan favorite. Very interesting. Not a deck that we've seen a ton in the Japan Championships. Going to be pretty exciting to see, especially with this leader effect. Enel, a very aggressive deck, but Koby can really control the board because of its emphasis on being able not only for the sword type characters to be able to attack characters on the turn which they are played, but a lot of things like the 3-cost Hibari being able to give effects to different characters to be able to attack active characters, and as well with that once per turn effect on Koby of being able to save a Navy power character of 7,000 base power or less from being removed from the field means that things like El Thor, right, might not be able to remove a body on Koby's side of the field, and it's going to be huge for trying to maintain this board and overwhelm the Purple Enel player. Chat, leave your predictions to see if you think Purple Enel or Koby will win. Looks like Koby is going first, though, in this matchup. Going to be nice to go first, right? Enel, a deck that loves going first. Looking at the Koby's hand right now, we've got a little bit of searching in the beginning of the game with that Kujaku, right? A very nice piece to be able to start out this one. A nice 2K in the Aramaki. A Ground Death, the card that we were actually talking about if people were playing heading into this championship. Very nice if the deck is able to build up the trash right of 10 or more cards, as well as a Koby and Helmeppo combo, right? That manga Koby right there, being able to have that once per turn effect to keep it on the field. Going to be very nice, especially played off of the Koby to swarm out the board. The Enel player has an Ohm in the hand, as well as a Gamma Knife going from the right side to the left side. The 4-drop Trafalgar Law could be interesting, right, to maybe snipe out a couple cards out of the Koby's hand with the on-play effect, and then later when more events are in the trash, Reiju going to be a 7,000 power blocker, and I think that's Vari on the very end side over of the player's hand, right, being able to +2 cost. Not necessarily very relevant in this matchup, I think, cost-wise, because Koby very much deals with power of leaders, but only time will tell, especially because Enel is one of the better decks in the format. It's going to be a tough battle for the Koby, whether he likes it or not. And here we go, chat. Oh, they changed the overlay a little bit. Going to be starting out with the Kujaku. Kujaku going to be going into that top 5 and being able to find, I believe, a sword type character. Or I'm sorry, a Navy type character. Navy type card as well, including the I want to be a Navy officer, right? I want to be in the Navy officer is a nice way to be able to build up that trash, right, for that Ground Death that we were talking about earlier, as well as continue to find pieces, and is not necessarily a bad 3-dawn turn for the Koby. Obviously, you want to play Hibari out onto the field, but you can't complain about having more search, trying to find more and more pieces of your deck. So now going in with the Charlotte Pudding to start off the turn for the Enel. Going to be looking in that top 4 for an event card. Finds a couple different options in Vari and Lightning Dragon. Lightning Dragon might be a really nice option, even though it doesn't provide you any counter in the turns, right, when Koby is swinging at you and attacking. Would be able to freeze something like a Hibari or another attacking body from restanding, but ends up going with the Vari instead. Vari going to be put into the hand to raise the cost potentially in a future turn. Now we go into the 3-dawn turn. The Ace Sabo Luffy drawn into the hand. Definitely a nice card. We're starting to see Ace Sabo Luffy used much more generically as a generic red 2K, right, to be able to minus in power. And so going in with that I want to be a Navy officer does find the Koby almost at the very last second, right, putting the Ground Death and Ace Sabo Luffy non-Navy cards into the trash. Having the second Koby in hand definitely wasn't what you were looking for, right? You were looking for something like Hibari. You were looking for something like potentially the even really anything like Doll, Kujaku, anything of the sort, but it's just going to be a pass off the turn after taking that first life on the 5K swing. 5K swing now going at leader is just going to be a 1K of the Koby to get out of that attack. Now going in, tapping all 4 Dawn, what I believe is for the Reiju, right? Since the Koby did not go to 7 cards in hand. Reiju's going to come out onto the field. Is just going to be a 5,000 power blocker as of right now and a 4 cost, but leader effect going on right now. We'll see if any events get played at this point, but not before attaching 4 Dawn onto the pudding for a potential 6,000 power swing. Not going to give up any 2Ks in the hand, just trying to find a card to be able to play on a future turn. Kujaku is a great card to be able to get off of the life and play on the next turn, and the Ohm goes in and draws 1 card for the on play effect, especially with that Kujaku going to be able to play it out onto the field for the 5 Dawn turn that Koby is going into, to be able not only to potentially draw some more cards, but have that defense as well of gaining 2,000 power on the defensive side. Is going to be able to keep it alive for a little bit longer. Also getting a Ripper card as well. That little 1 cost Navy guy right there. Especially on a 5 Dawn turn, you could just go 4 for Kujaku and 1 for the Ripper, right, to round out your turn, be able to force, you know, a Mamaragon or an Elthor or something on that guy to be able to get around it, and more attention drawn to him and not your other bodies like Kujaku, you're totally fine with, in my opinion. So going in now with a 5,000 power swing, we'll see if he swings at the pudding right here. But no, he's just going to go at lead. A couple Mamaragons in the hand, but decides to keep it and go down to 3, just building up the hand size. Kujaku going to be coming down. We'll see the on-play effect potentially of trashing a Navy card. Going to be trashing that manga rare Koby to be able to draw a couple cards. Looks like did find a... Looks like a PRBO2 Koby. PRBO2 Koby is going to be a really nice card, right, to be able to KO some of these smaller bodies like Ohm, like Pudding, with that when attacking effect, especially because Koby allows your sword type characters to be able to attack on the turn that they're played, right? So setting up the hand a little bit. Does have 7 cards in hand, so you definitely want to play this Ripper down on the field if you can to get out of the Trafalgar Law range. But we might see the Kujaku go in and swing at the Pudding. Right, Kujaku having that sword effect does have the ability to attack characters on the turn that it's played, but do you want to expose it on the field right now, right? Especially with this Reiju, it's just 1 leader effect to be able to get it to be a 9,000 power swing over at Kujaku, even with the boost. And it looks like we are going to go ahead and clear this Pudding, just remove it off the field. The Ripper comes down, just a nice little 1-drop blocker. We move on into the turn for the Enel, especially because you have another Black Navy type character on the field in that Kujaku. The Ripper is going to be a blocker, so if you have any way to forcefully get rid of that Kujaku, going to be able to nullify that blocker. But especially with the Koby protection effect, right? Even though you have the Elthor in hand, you might do a little bit of shenanigans with like Gamma Knife and also, you know, like popping effects. It's not necessarily going to work as much. The Enel, looking at that secret rare Enel just to be able to build up on the board. And this is going to be one of the things that I think is Koby is going to really need to do, especially in response to this Enel. You're going to have to remove it off the field somehow in some way, right? Especially as a 10,000 power body, those swings are going to be stacking up like crazy. And so if you're able to remove those bodies every single turn, right, kind of go around the protection effect, just swing over it, that's going to be very, very nice for you, especially because on turns like this, you kind of just see like the Enel get played and then maybe another 1-drop right after leader effect. And so pitching the Vari on the secret rare Enel is going to go in now with the 5,000 power swing over at lead, especially with 6 cards in hand. You're not worried about the 4-cost law at this point in the game. So if you want to take a life, you can, but ends up getting rid of the PRBO2 Koby. Not necessarily the card that I would have thought of for the Koby to get rid of, maybe eyeing up the Helmeppo on the next turn that we see in the hand. That 6-cost Helmeppo, very nice for being able to swarm out the board. So now going in with an Elthor is going to attempt to get rid of the Ripper, And so now, especially with Koby, I believe Koby has the opportunity to save the Ripper if he wanted to, because of Koby's leader effect. Or actually did like get clarification on it and then back out. I think maybe he got clarification on it and then backed out. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure, but ended up using leader effect to attach onto the Ohm, and now is swinging 6,000 power, it looks like, over at the Kujaku. The Kujaku is going to be minus 1,000 power, right? Even though it's +2 to make it an 8, it's going to go down to a 7. Is just only going to be plus 1,000 for Kujaku, right? That rested body in total. The 6,000 power going at lead, it should be 6,000 power at lead because of 4 Dawn attached. Still has 1 Dawn left as active. More than likely to play another Ohm down onto the field. We'll see if he 2Ks out of this or goes down to 2. Does have that Ace Sabo Luffy in hand, but maybe eyeing up the Ace Sabo Luffy just to be able to get the aggression on some of these other bodies. But no, goes ahead and blocks with the Ripper because there was that Black Navy type character onto the field. Got that blocker trait. Now Enel goes in with the Ohm, being able to draw 1 card. 3 Mamaragons in the hand for the purple Enel. Going to be a little difficult, I think, to be able to KO the Enel in this turn, the Secret Rare Enel, especially because attacking active characters is something that you'll need the 3-cost Tabari on the field to be able to do outside of some other effects, but we pass off the turn, especially because the Koby player, we also just got the doll off the top of the deck. The doll might be an interesting way to be able to minus the power on the Enel, but again, not having the Habari in this situation in the game means it's going to be really hard to be able to attack active characters, so you might want to save the doll for when the Enel turns sideways, right, to go ahead and swing at it. But starts out with the 6,000 power swing at potentially lead. He's thinking about going in with the Helmeppo first. The Helmeppo on play, if you do not know, trashing a card from your hand not only gets you to draw 1 card, but you'll be able to play a sword type character with a cost of 8 or less other than Helmeppo from your trash. Is going to play out that Koby. Another thing about this Helmeppo, on top of being able to play another character, is the character that you played out gets bottom decked at the end of the turn. And so Koby is going to be bottom decked, but we'll talk about its once per turn here in a second. Swinging into the Ohm, right, because of Koby's leader effect, means that the Koby effect can proc off your turn once per turn when your opponent's character is KO'd. Draw 1 card. That was that draw that you maybe saw there. The Helmeppo also able to swing at characters on this turn. And so here's one thing that you really got to think about, right? Especially if you plan on blocking with the Reiju. Might be able to get Helmeppo as a 7,000 power character to be able to swing at the Reiju and force more cards out of your hand. So the Kujaku 6,000 power could just be a event to be able to get out of it, one of the different events. And Elthor looks like is going to be the option for plus 2,000 power. Might go ahead and attach 1 and swing 6 just to force another event, especially because Enels don't necessarily play 2Ks in their deck. A lot of them not playing any 2Ks at all, maybe 1, 2 maximum of the 2K Sanjis. You know, 2K fishing is a real thing within the matchup of Purple Enel, right? You want them to use their events for 2,000 power instead of their main phases, because the main phases are so strong, and one of the reasons why Purple Enel is so good. So only swinging 5,000 power could just be a Mamaragon to be able to get out of the attack. You would be able to draw 1 card, and that's exactly what we're going to see, right, just of that draw. Now the Helmeppo going in with the Koby at the end of turn. Koby's once per turn says if your leader's type includes Navy and this character would be removed from field, which it should be because of Helmeppo's on play effect, you can trash 1 card from your hand instead to keep it on the field. So that's why Koby did not get bottom decked here at that point. One of the stronger combos of the Koby deck, right? Once this Helmeppo comes out on the field, when this Koby came out in EB04 as that manga rare, right, that you see on the field and just generally in the set, kind of gave a huge boost to Koby to be able to keep these bodies out on the field. So attaching 2 Dawn, maybe swinging 7,000 power at lead, is going to be 2 cards out of hand, a 2K, 1K, or maybe that one event right there is going to go ahead and take the life, put it in the hand, because there are only, I think, 8 cards in the trash as of right now. Ground Death would not give you plus 4,000 power. You got to counter out with another card out of your hand before you go in with the Ground Death to be able to gain that plus 2,000 power. Hibari is finally found off the top of the life, a brick in the hand, so not going to be able to counter out with that. The 10,000 power swing now. We'll see where this 10,000 power swing is going. Could just be going at lead. What you could do as the Koby is you could maybe use the Ace Sabo Luffy or Arumaki 2Ks and then Ground Death for 11,000 power in total to be able to get out of the 10,000 power attack, especially because once you counter out of one card with the character card that's 9 in the trash, you're still in the counter phase, so then you'd be able to use Ground Death to be able to have that as the 10th card in trash and be able to get that plus 2,000 or 4,000 counter. Yo, right on, what's good? Hold on one sec. So is going to do that exact combo that I was mentioning of the Ground Death to be able to get the 10 cards in trash and get out of the attack. Definitely a really nice combo, I think, for the Koby at this point in the game. Lightning Dragon going to be played right now to be able to stun one of these 6,000 power characters on the field. I don't think it actually stuns anything because of Kujaku's effect of plus 2,000 power. All of these characters on the field. Lightning Dragon only deals with current power, not necessarily base power. So none of these characters actually in range for stunning. It's really just a cycle effect to be able to get a Dawn into the Dawn deck, and then also on top of that be able to cycle it, get another card potentially. And so the 7,000 power swing from the Reiju gets a life into the hand. Thinking about playing another 4-cost Reiju out onto the field, and it looks like going ahead and tapping for Dawn is going to be for that Reiju. Ryan have 2 7,000 power bodies. Reiju, such a good card in this deck. Now leader effect, restanding 1 Dawn and attaching 4 onto the Ohm is just going to swing a bunch of 7s right now at this Koby, and so is going to have to force 2 cards out of hand right now. I don't think you want to go down to 0 so early in this matchup. Looks like he's thinking about pitching 2K, and I think that's really just what he has to do. Is going to go ahead now, 2K out of that attack to stay at 1 life. Is going to go ahead. The board is developed right now for this Koby, and especially with the Enel is turned sideways. You've got Doll and Hibari to be able to remove a lot of different bodies on the field right now if you really wanted to, right? Especially because the Helmeppo and Koby 7,000 power, and the Doll is minus 6,000 power. Doll's going to kind of be your condition to get rid of this secret rare Enel. You're not necessarily worried about the Ohm. You can get rid of the Ohm fairly easily. I think the Reijus might be a little bit more difficult because you don't have an abundance of power minusing that you can do. But with 9 Dawn in total, could see something along the lines of like play Doll, play Hibari to be able to widen out the board. I don't know if you really want to play Ripper, but especially with the Enel, if they keep the Mamaragons in the hand for some of these small blockers like Doll or Ripper, that could spell disaster for this Koby if a lot of bodies stay on the field for the purple Enel into this next turn and they start swinging in at life. Only 4 cards in hand right now for the Koby. The Koby was 8-1, yeah. The Koby was 8-1, by the way. The Doll is coming in onto the field. Trashing a card is going to be minus 6,000 power. Decided to get rid of the Hibari, so you know this active Reiju is more than likely staying on the field. Enel, that secret rare, now sitting at 4,000 power in total. Is just a field day for these different characters that can be going in and swinging at this Enel. Might start out with 6,000 power over at the Enel, would force 2 cards out of hand. Might think about attaching 1 Dawn onto the Kujaku at least, and maybe 2 Dawn on your leader, just to be able to swing 7,000 power and not get a free block on the Reiju. But ends up just swinging the 6. See when he decides to block with the Reiju, because there are 4 more events in trash. Reiju does get that 2,000 power buff, but just lets the Enel go on the first swing, says, you know what, I don't want to give up any resources to keep this Enel alive, especially when there's so many bodies that can swing at this Enel through this turn. And then your turn, Koby, because the Enel was KO'd, drawing one card, a little bit of hand recursion in the deck. I think he drew a Navy officer. I want to be a Navy officer as of right now. So ended up putting the Kujaku in the trash for that activate main. The Kujaku trashing herself gives 1,000 power to one of your characters during the turn. So giving that to the Koby is going to be 8,000 power in total. Looks like it's going to have to be a little bit of counter to get out of the attack, but goes in with Mama Ragon right here. So that's plus 1,000 power. That's going to 6. 7 is going to be on the attack. Or actually, no, was maybe going at the Reiju, my apologies. Because that was an 8,000 power swing, right? So it must have been going at the Reiju for the 1K and the 1K. My apologies on that. Just another 8,000 power swing going in at the Reiju. Does have a couple 1Ks in hand, right, in terms of the pudding or the Shura. I really wonder if he's going to give up 2Ks for this. But no, just lets the Reiju go. Had the natural counter to get out of the attack, but wanted to save a little bit of the resources in hand. Now is going to go with the I want to be a Navy officer. Does find a 2K in the Helmeppo. Does put that in hand instead of the Koby, right? Just trying to get counter, especially because you don't have a lot of cards in hand right now. Could just play a Ripper down onto the field to be able to get a body down. Is going to go a little bit of the passive route. Just play the Ripper down onto the field, pass off the turn. Didn't want to swing 6, right? Even if it's at the Ohm, because the active Reiju is sitting at 7,000 power, right? Would just be a free block to be able to get out of the attack. Does the Enel just like jam face? And I think especially with 2 blockers, the Enel really doesn't want to utilize Mama Ragon right now. But tapping this pudding here means that the Enel is not coming down onto the field. Pudding can't necessarily find you anything like a Frankie or another Reiju to be able to get a little bit more defensive, since pudding only finds events. But is going to go with that route. Does find another Mama Ragon. Is that the 4th copy of Mama Ragon, I think, has been found? Could go ahead and try to utilize that. I don't think he's going to be going in with a double Mama Ragon play to be able to try to hit lethal at this point. I think your lethal math is also really difficult, especially because when you Mama Ragon, you do have to Dawn -2. So you would have to get rid of one of the active Dawns, and I don't really think you want to do that. Looks like it is just going to continue on with this 7,000 power strategy, maybe. Especially when you don't really have any characters to play down besides potentially maybe Shura. But I don't know how much Shura can really help you outside of potentially finding a little bit of counter. We do know the 2K Helmeppo is in hand, but just trying to get it out is going to go in with the Helmeppo. The purple Enel more than likely knowing that he's not going to be able to win on this turn. So just trying to get that card out of hand right now and maybe set up a potential lethal line in the next turn is maybe more of the strategy of what he's trying to do right now. Thinking about doing Mama Ragon or just hard attaching 3 Dawn onto the Ohm. Is going to go ahead now. 5,000 power swing over at lead. And especially with only 1 card in hand and a couple Dawn up, right? You really want to swing low numbers, right, at this Koby. You want these counter events, stuff like Ground Death that gives so much power onto the leader to get out of these situations. You want that to be utilized for like these small swings, or maybe the blockers, right, of the Ripper, because right now this Koby's kind of in top deck mode. So especially because you still have like 7 cards in hand, I would say you might not be worried about losing in the next turn. So if you can just keep a couple bodies on the field and just try to get a couple cards out of the hand, or try to get like one of these 2 blockers out, you might be sitting in a position to where you might try to go for lethal in the next turn. The Ohm is going to minus 1,000 power on the Kujaku, so it is only plus 1,000 power in total. Still 7,000 power character. Cannot be stunned by a Lightning Dragon. I would agree with the players of chat right now. I think blocking, especially with this Ripper, probably your best idea, and he does exactly that. Still 1 Dawn left to be able to work with. Could just be the Shura to get out onto the field, and it's going to be exactly that. Shura going in and drawing 1 card. Could, if he found another 1 cost, like use leader effect to be able to play that 1 cost out on the field to cycle a little bit more. But goes in now with a Mamaragon. We're going very aggressive with that doll getting rested, drawing 1 card. It's a Gamma Knife, not necessarily good to utilize. We could use leader effect and now swing with the Shura if we wanted to. Shura, an excellent body, right? If you have 6 or less Dawn on your field, you do have that ability to be able to have Rush on the Shura. So right now, Shura can swing. Swinging the Reiju, I think it's fine to swing the Reiju right now. Actually, you don't have a lot of counter in hand at all. But with them being able to attack active characters, maybe you just want to swing the Reiju right now and just go for lethal in a sense. Maybe call the bluff and say, okay, I don't know if you have the counter in the hand. But the swing on the Shura is just going to be a ground death for plus 2,000 power on the 7,000 power swing to get out of it. And now we could see a pass of the turn. Nothing has Rush really in this deck to be able to swing at leader. So especially with 4 swings having to connect with leader, it would have to be the Kujaku, the Koby leader and character, and Helmeppo with the 10 Dawn to be able to go ahead and hit lethal with a huge hand size of 7 cards for the Enel. It's not going to be as easy as you think, I feel like, especially because you do at least have a Mamaragon in hand to be able to draw a card. You do have a Vari, I believe, as a little bit of counter. You do have Lightning Beast Kitten as a counter. And so we'll see what this Koby decides to do. Top decking the doll could just go ahead now and control the board after swinging at that Ohm and drawing 1 card. We'll see what he decides to do with the rest of this turn. Could maybe play this 3-cost Abari to just go for a little bit of board wipe, right? Being able to attack active characters. You could be able to get rid of everything on the Enel side of the field and just really limit to 1 swing per turn, maybe finishing off your turn with a doll blocker just to be able to have 2 blockers on the field and ask them for a lot to have. The Habari is coming down onto the field, especially on the on play. Your sword type, is it leader and character or just 1? Habari does say that up to 1 of your sword type leaders or characters on the on play can attack actives on the turn. So we'll see what he decides to utilize. I actually missed what he elected to for it, but the when attacking also elects something to have the ability to attack actives as well. So looks like the Habari elected herself on the on play to be able to attack actives, and then Habari being able on the activate main as well, minusing 1,000 power. It's going to make the Reiju a 6,000 power character. So you can spread this Dawn out a little bit, get rid of some of these bodies on the field. You do have a couple swings that you can utilize. Might try to go in with like a 7,000 or 8,000 power swing at the Reiju to be able to knock it out. A lot of times Enel decks don't have a lot of counter for their characters, so a lot of the characters, if you swing either base power or maybe just 1,000 power higher, you'll see like in this situation, right, where there's nothing given up for this Reiju. A lot of the counter event cards like Kitten, like the Vari that we see in hand, only work for Enel cards. So now the swing at the Shura completely clears the board for this Koby. Might start seeing a little bit of stabilization. He can go in and swing the Koby over at the life if he wants to for a 7,000 power swing. Maybe is thinking going a little bit farther than that, is thinking 9,000 power. This is going to force 3 cards out of the hand from the Enel if he wants to get out of it, and so does not elect to get out of it. Now going and tapping the 4 Dawn is going to be for a doll. Now it's going to have to be 2 resting effects of things like Mamaragon to be able to get out of the attack, but I think 3 Mamaragons have been utilized as of right now. The 4th one sitting in hand, so I don't think he's actually going to be able to get lethal at this point in the game. So it looks like we've also hit the overtime rules. I think because the Koby hit first and then it was the Enel's turn. I think there's only 2 turns left in overtime, if my memory is correct on how Japanese overtime rules work, because it's a little bit different than the Western overtime rules. I think there's 2 turns left. It does feel like a situation though to where Koby needs to win on this next turn no matter what, especially being in top deck mode. Just going to be a 5,000 power swing at lead. It's just going to block with the doll. It's going to keep the counter in the hand. Doll being a 1,000 powered character. Well, Elthor really doesn't work, Panda Bear, because of the protection effect. Is thinking about going with the blocker Enel. The blocker Enel would actually be really interesting in this situation because it would make it a lot harder for this Koby to actually hit lethal. So you might be able to be in a situation where you can win by the overtime rules of having more life. Because again, not a lot of things have rush over on the Koby side. And so we are going to see the blocker Enel come out onto the field, become a blocker immediately. And that's going to be a body that's going to be hard for the Koby to go around. And so maybe it's a situation as the purple Enel where, okay, because of the overtime rules, hitting leader effect, I believe, as of right now, might try to play a body on field like the pudding to be able to look for some counter. Might be a situation where, okay, maybe I don't actually need to try to hit for lethal right now. Maybe I just got to try to outlast in this next turn, finding a 2K counter event in the Elthor. So we see the pass off to the turn. I think this is the final turn for Koby in overtime. It's going to be really tough, I think, to be able to get around this Enel. The Helmeppo would be able to play a Koby or something out from the trash, but I don't think that would work. Helmeppo does only play sword type, so you can't play something like the doll either that you just pitched to be able to minus 6,000 power the Enel. What is your win condition here as the, I don't know, does Koby have a win condition? He needs to hit 4 times to be able to win according to this board. He does have 4 swings, but that would mean that all of these swings need to hit. And especially when they just searched for a 2K counter event, I don't really like my odds if I'm the Koby right now. Yeah, I think the biggest thing about this match was not having 3 Costa Bari at the beginning of the game. I think if you had 3 Costa Bari, this game could have gone a lot differently, being able to, you know, remove all the active characters on the Enel side of the board to really punish the amount of swings that he had every single turn. Yeah, I think there's too much counter in the Enel's hand, I think, for this Koby to be able to win. I don't think swinging 6,000 power is the way to do it. But it looks like he is just going to swing 6,000 power. Could just go a 2K event of Elthor to get out of that. And we see that exactly from the Enel plus 2,000 power onto an Enel card. And so could you, I think, just concedes the game right there. Yeah, just concedes the game, says, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be able to get there. And Enel is going to be advancing into the top 8 of this championship after squeaking away with the win. Definitely a good game, in my opinion. I think we saw a pretty decent showcase of Koby, but especially not being able to use the Hibari in the early stages of the game. It did help out in the late stages of the game, right? But I think especially going down a little bit faster than probably you wanted to, right? Because I think Koby is very good, right, when you are able to get those Hibaris out on the field, to be able to control the game at a very early pace, right? Especially in the Enel matchup, being able to remove a lot of the 1 costs that come out onto the field immediately, being able to hit the Reiju right before it becomes a 7,000 power blocker. You know, all of those things, I think, not being able to have that kind of earlier aggression onto the board and that early control-y aspect was kind of the downfall in that matchup. Definitely a good game to watch, though, and good to see Koby at least in the showcase of the top 16.